Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of living on Kauai. This video is going to be different than a lot of the other ones that are out there talking about living in Hawaii, because this is going to be specific to living on the island of Kauai. And there's a lot of big differences between this island and some of the other ones in Hawaii, and certainly some large differences between here and the mainland. I'm going to try to cover as much as I can, all the big thoughts, and just cut the fluff out of it. I'll just get straight to the point. So let's dive in. Pro number one is the nature and scenery, along with the activities that you can do in the nature. So it's not called the Garden Island for nothing. On the North Shore, you have really lush, beautiful green areas, and then south and west, you have nice, beautiful drier areas. Just a completely different landscape, but the scenery is beautiful all the way around. Makes for pleasant driving. There's lots of pleasant places to sit and enjoy nature. The activities within nature are abundant as well. There's good surf year round, depending on where you want to go. If you want to get to the bigger waves, you can look up the surf report and get there. If you want to avoid the swells, you can also do the exact opposite. Look where the swells are and go to the other side of the island. No matter what day, it's probably going to be raining somewhere and it's probably going to be sunny somewhere. Of course, there are those days where we have an enveloping storm that just covers the whole island. But most days it'll be dry in certain areas and it'll be wet in certain areas. So there's a ton of diversity within the landscape and the scenery, what it looks like and how the weather is. Activities you can pretty much do year round is golf, fishing, hiking, water sports, basically anything outside. All right, so con number one, and this is a big one for most people, is the cost of living. So not only the housing, but all of the other related expenses like groceries and stuff like that. So just to give you an idea of what the housing is like over here, the average home price is over $1 million, and the cost of rent is typically, if you want to get your own place, say you want to get a starter entry-level 2-bedroom condo, these days you're probably looking around $2,500. Obviously give or take, depending on who you know or where you're looking. But $2,500 is close to the starting point of the market over here for a condo, and that's for rent. There's a lot of single-family houses that can be anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000. And then you start getting into the nicer stuff, $5,000 or $6,000 a month all day long. So there's a lot of people that are paying that and more for rent. Groceries are also considerably more costly than the mainland. Even simple things like potatoes are 2 to 3 times as expensive. And while they're still pretty cheap, it all adds up. So I'll often go to the grocery store, whether it's Safeway or Costco, and it's hard to get out of there without spending at least $60 to $100. Typically my one bag from Safeway will cost anywhere from $60 to $80, depending on what I'm getting. Obviously I could buy cheaper stuff, but this is just an assortment of produce and various household things. Pro number two is the weather. That's closely related to the scenery and the nature that I mentioned in the first one, but let's talk about the weather specifically. So what I love about the weather is the consistency. Not only the consistency from night and day. So nighttime, it doesn't get very cold. It definitely cools down at night, which can be nice, especially after a hot day, but it doesn't get frigid at night. Also within that subject, the island has all these microclimates. So the North Shore is usually more wet. The south is usually more dry. Depending on any given day, you can drive somewhere and experience completely different weather. In the summer, way out west, it'll be really hot. And then you get up into some of the higher elevation areas and it'll be much cooler. All right, con number two, and I also have a pro related to this, but let's talk about the downside, is the lack of food options. So while there are some great places to eat around here, the lack of options can be a little unsettling for people that are used to having hundreds of options. I can remember being from the Pacific Northwest, I was within driving distance to almost an unlimited number of places to eat including things like Chipotle, Panera, Chick-fil-A, Killer Burger, all those household names, Crumble Cookies. We don't have any of that stuff over here. So you're gonna have to familiarize yourself with what is available here and kind of get used to that, and maybe cook a little bit more at home too. But let's go to the other side of the coin with pro number 3. So the local eats are amazing. There's really nice fine dining options, oceanfront dining, and then on down to the little small hole in the walls, local food. It's very much related to the melting pot culture. There's a melting pot culture of food, and there's awesome places for fresh fish. Of course, we still have a number of convenient, well-known options, like Domino's Pizza, Pizza Hut, KFC, McDonald's, Burger King. We still have some of those places, absolutely. So con number 3 is a lack of skilled workers. So good help is hard to find, and over here that's especially true. There's great professionals in nearly every industry over here, but a lot of times it's really hard to find them. You can go to other areas, say on the mainland, and you can call any plumber and get somebody instantly to your door. Over here, it can be hard to find a plumber. Over here, it's hard to find a CPA. It's hard to find for instance, I was trying to connect somebody with a litigation attorney the other day, and from what I heard from another attorney, there is no litigation attorney over here. There's not one litigation specialist on this entire island. I had to refer someone else to an eviction attorney, and there was one person that handled evictions on this entire island that was an attorney. I know people have had to wait months to get in with a preferred contractor. So these can definitely be challenges when you need some type of skilled professional help, whether it's labor or some type of legal services or anything else like that. There's certain industries that have a large scarcity of supply and a lot of demand for what they do. Pro number 4 is a simple one. So farmers markets over here are amazing. There's tons of farms. There's all this tropical and also more conventional produce. And one of the great things about Kauai is there's a farmer's market every day. Sometimes there's more than one. And you can find the schedule online or just ask around, and most people know what the schedule is or can point you in the right direction. But you'll be able to, any given day of the week, you'll be able to go to a farmer's market and grab local produce grown on the island. That's a huge plus, because everything else comes from off island, is imported by a ship or plane, mostly with produce ships. And so it's not as fresh. You're also being a little bit more green and earth conscious if you shop at the farmer's market. So this is a great thing a lot of people like to take advantage of. Con number 4. So this one is traffic and road work. We do not have traffic in the conventional sense, where if you go to a larger metropolitan area, even if you've ever spent any time on Oahu, there can be some gridlock traffic over there. We don't have that kind of traffic. We more just have one road in, one road out to a lot of places, or even like one highway that's one lane each, that's servicing a lot of people. So during peak hours, that can get backed up, and for whatever reason, sometimes it doesn't even take that long, but it's always grueling to get stuck in traffic. And what adds to the complexity of that here on Kauai is because the infrastructure is so small, one small piece of road work can really just derail all of the transportation for the day. There's every once in a while they've got one lane shut down, and it totally messes up the traffic for the better part of a day. I know right now at the time of this video, they're doing several projects up and down the coast, and hopefully some of the traffic is mitigated in the near future. But just based on my experience and then talking to others that came before me, the ongoing traffic as well as ongoing maintenance, roadside maintenance, lane closures, that's going to be something that's probably going to be around for a while. So it's just important to remember that, you're on island time when you're here, and you just gotta kind of go with the flow. It is what it is. There's really no simple solution. So it's just something you have to work through. Pro number 5 is the beaches. This relates a lot to the weather and all that. You can get to a nice beach anywhere because it's a round island. If the swell is coming from this way, you can, go to the swell, or you can avoid the swell. There's nice beaches all over. And that's a fun thing that people like to do, is discover various beaches that seem to fit their vibe. And I would say, if you haven't been to any of the beaches, start with the popular ones. There's great popular beaches all over the island, and you can ask around or look that up, and you really can't go wrong. There's beaches that are on bays with much calmer waters. There's beaches that have tide pools for swimming, beaches that are great for kids, beaches that are right on the Pacific with large waves crashing right on the shore. Kauai actually has, in my opinion, the best beaches, but definitely, even speaking from a geological standpoint, this is the oldest island geologically on the chain, the oldest major island, that is. So we have more sand, more erosion, and there's been more time for the sand to accumulate, because that's what happens over time. All the rocks get beat up and ground down. And so you're gonna get a lot more sand over here, and therefore a lot more beaches. I think we have some of the largest beaches in the state. We have the largest reef in the state, and lots for you to do at the beach. So that's a great pro. Con number 5 is that you have to fly to travel. It's a fairly small island. There's a relatively limited number of things to do. And besides, the world is a big place. You might want to get off the island every once in a while and go do something else, whether it's tourism related, work related, or just go see the world, enjoy yourself. At any rate, you gotta fly pretty much to get off this island, and that can be a challenge because, number one, the price is not always favorable. Sometimes it's pretty expensive to get back to the mainland. Usually neighbor island flights are fairly affordable, depending on what your definition of affordable is. And then what else goes with flying is it's just a large commitment of time and energy. If you're going to be flying to the mainland or have multiple flights in a day, that can be quite taxing. I know me personally, I used to be very nervous about flying just because I'm bigger and I feel like I have maybe a little bit of claustrophobia. So I have gotten better over time, but my advice there, if you hate flying, is repetition is your friend, and also education. So these things are safer than they've ever been. So if you learn kind of a little bit more about how the plane works and all that, then it kind of eases down on that. But I know I'm not the only one that gets a little bit of anxiety from flying, but it's definitely gotten better with time. And that's just something I think about every time I have to travel. It's like, great, I have to take a flight basically anywhere. Pro number 6 is that this is a wonderful melting pot of cultures and great people. I meet so many interesting people that have fantastic stories, whether they came from Japan or China or the mainland or Australia. There's people from all over around here, and most of them have a really interesting story, whether it's an old family story of how they got here or otherwise. The important thing to remember is to think about what you can do for your community and not what your community can do for you. Con number 6, there are limited events. There's no pro sports. I like to play basketball for fun. There's like one league. I found some good groups of people to do activities with, but it's much more limited than other areas. And then as far as like sporting events, you can pretty much forget about it unless you're going to travel elsewhere. There's obviously no professional sports teams as far as like NBA, NFL, MLB, none of that in the entire state of Hawaii, much less Kauai, which is one of the smaller islands. So you have to get all that enjoyment either on TV or, you can go fly and catch a game, which a lot of people over here do. There's some diehard sports fans over here. But on the other side of the coin, there's also limited events like concerts and other special events like that. There are some great little festivals they have from time to time, a lot of reggae or island music, but don't expect the same level of activity that you might see in a larger metropolitan area. I know when I go travel to some of these larger metro areas on the mainland, I'll look up the calendar of events, and there's just, all these various events showing headliners and popular bands and up and coming artists, and a couple times a week you could go to a show if you wanted to. That is definitely not the case here. So settle in and don't prepare for that. All right, and we'll finish things off with a bonus pro number 7, and we're gonna compare Kauai to the rest of the islands here. And in general, we are much less commercialized and populated. Depending on who you are, this might be a pro or a con, but I think for me, it's a pro. There's no high rises, there's no skyscrapers, there's no 3-lane freeways, top speed limits 50 miles an hour, population 70,000 and some change. So it's a pretty small, intimate community, and there's enough elbow room to spread out. And I think the county and the local government does a good job of making an effort to keep it that way. So while there is development always ongoing, I think the residents and the people who enjoy this land really want to see it remain that way for the foreseeable future. And I hope they're able to find a way to continue to keep that spirit alive while we plow into the future, into the unknown, as the global population continues to rise. So far, I think they've done a great job, in my opinion. But yeah, what you're gonna find over here is that it's definitely less commercialized, less mainstream. However, there are still lots of communities, lots of niche communities of great people doing fun activities. If you like to play pickleball, there's all type of groups and people that go out and do that all over the island. Whatever you want to do, spearfishing, scuba diving, anything. There's enough people to where there's these nice little communities of niche activities and other things to do, and people to connect with, like-minded people to connect with, artists, chefs, whatever it may be. By the way, I also do real estate here on the island. So if you guys need any help or any advice or want to see what the market's doing lately, be sure to just reach out to me. I'm all ears. I'm happy to share my thoughts anytime. I hope my pros and cons was helpful. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you like my content, I would really appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up, just like the video, subscribe, follow, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.